Hi everybody, welcome to a new edition of Let's Talk About Education with Antonio Corrales. Literacy has been a topic in education for years. We have heard schools, we have heard universities always trying to increase level of literacy across the board. We have heard research has shown how important it is to increase literacy in regards to other subjects.
Yeah.
Well, today we have the honor to have with us Dr. Robbie Raymond. She's in charge of the literacy program at the University of Houston Clear Lake, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about the program and in simple terms, what does it mean to have a literacy program at a university level to train future educators. Robbie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
Very excited.
Absolutely. Why don't we start by letting you introduce yourself to the audience and kind of letting them know how do you get to where you are in your career.
Okay, so I spent 17 years working in the Houston Independent School District. I was a classroom teacher, taught 5th and 6th grade language arts. I became the literacy coach on the campus, K-3. I then moved into a district role and was a literacy coach across the district, an instructional specialist, a teacher development specialist, and then before I left the district, I was the elementary curriculum manager, and we wrote the curriculum for English, Spanish, and ESL, and the assessments for 187 elementaries in the district. And then I was lucky enough to come here at the university and work with pre-service teachers and graduate students after I received my doctorate. And I'm super excited to be able to build up the pre-service teachers and send them out on a good solid foundation for our children so that they have the best possible start in literacy.
That is fantastic. Now, Robbie, we hear all the time about the incorporation of technology and how technology has changed things. Talking to teachers and talking to administrators across the board, instructional technology has started to play a really important role in all the equation. From your perspective, being in charge of the literacy program to basically train future educators in that area, how have you modified your program to incorporate technology, make it about instructional technology, and how to keep it relevant? Because people sometimes have that misperception that because we have technology, literacy doesn't play a role in one, and it's totally the opposite. It basically has to continue doing the same, but incorporating technology. So how do you put the technology in the equation, and how do you keep relevant your program?
You brought up some really good points about we have one, we can't let the other go.
Right.
I think it is our responsibility as educators to show our students, whether they are pre-K-12 students or pre-service teachers, how to use technology in a way that is beneficial. So you want it to supplement and not supplant instruction. In addition, when we're working through digital literacies, reading text on a device is different than reading a static book. So when I'm on the computer or I'm on my phone reading, it's going to start taking me, I call them rabbit holes, right? Because I'm going to click here and it's going to take me someplace, and I'm going to click here and it's going to take me someplace. So as educators, it's important that we teach our students how to read that type of text. That's another type of reading. It's another genre, so to say. So that they understand when they go down the rabbit hole how to get back and what does it mean, like where are they going to look. And I think it's also important for us to show students at whatever level, they have to be able to discern what they read online. Is it valid? Is it reliable? So they have to know the right sources to go to. And if you look in our standards, the TEAC standards, research is included, and that's part of research is really, does this make sense? If I go to this website, is this quality information that I'm getting? So that's one way. So when we incorporate literacy, digital literacies into our assignments, it's so the pre-service teachers, they are able to do it themselves and then have that gradual release to transfer onto their own students on how to use it within the classroom.
That makes perfect sense. Now, from your perspective, talking about that specific expansion that you have experienced with corporation and instructional technology, and like you said, not only looking at from the replacement but the expanding area. What are the things that you feel that instructional technology has impacted the most on the way that you do business in your program, or the way that teachers teach literacy in schools, or higher ed? What is the biggest impact that you have seen or that have had in you the way that you run your program?
I guess I would say is you have access to more information,
Okay.
more materials. In addition, you have access to other people. So I'm thinking about Twitter. If Twitter is used for professional development purposes, there are a wide range of new learning that I can get from it.
Yeah, but what about the what about what I hear all the time? For example, that big let's say that big debate in terms of quantity versus quality in terms of technology. And for you guys, for literacy teachers or for literacy administrators, we hear all the time, okay, we have this wonderful app, we have these great iPads, we have these great interactive boards, but a lot of teachers don't know how to use those resources, and not only don't know how to use it, but don't know how to effectively implement it in the lesson planning and have increases to an achievement. Have you faced that dynamic within your program and your teachers that you're training in terms of, okay, you're gonna receive these many apps, these many resources, but at the end of the day, you still have to increase literacy.
Right. And I think it goes to balance.
Okay.
You have to balance the technology you bring into the classroom with everything else that you have to teach in the classroom.
Correct.
And like I said earlier, it should supplement.
Correct.
It should never supplant teaching or, so that it should never become about the product, right? It should never become about the website or about the app. It's about what literacies can I gain from the app? What am I reading, writing, listening, speaking?
What is the final goal?
Right.
That's the perfect thing. Now, do you think that reading teachers and literacy teachers have become more instructional technologies experts than reading teachers, or do you think that even with incorporation technology, you still seeing similar way of teaching in the classroom than we used to see 20 years ago?
Yeah, I think having some new technologies like the apps, or I can help you, I can send you here to practice something. I'm always going to go back to it. It's supplements.
Correct.
Right?
You still have to find main idea. You still have to find sequencing.
I still have to, and I'm still reading, but my practice can look a little bit different,
Correct.
right? And thinking about different modalities,
Correct.
right? We want students to be able to, so maybe we have, a hands-on modality, but maybe we go over here and we're able to do some listening. And so having different technologies gives them opportunity to have those different modalities too. Well, in essence, we have to touch everybody, and we want to make sure that we're doing the best job we can.
Correct. Now, from the university perspective, you're a university professor, you're in charge of the literacy program at the university level. We may have some folks looking at us right now that want to be you in the future. They want to, be in charge of a program such as the literacy one. What does it mean to run a literacy program at a university level? What does the job entails? What are the things that you love the most? What are the things that you struggle the most because they're not that fun?
Yeah, I think it's with every job, it's about the team that you work with.
Okay.
And it's about everyone working together because we all have this goal to achieve. And I think as faculty at the university, we not only keep current with current research, but we have to make sure that we know what's going on in the schools, and so right now we just had a revision of the English language arts and Spanish language arts TEKS, and so it's our responsibility to make sure that we really understand that so that we can work with pre-service teachers and making sure that we're pushing them out ready to go in our schools. So we walk the fine line to making sure that we stay on the cutting edge of everything, cutting edge of what's happening in schools, research so that it all can be put together.
And it can be effective. What are the things that you see teachers, new teachers struggling the most when learning how to teach literacy? What are the areas that you say, okay, I have to work harder in these areas than others?
I think one, maybe the small group instruction, making sure the guided reading is in place, or my literature circles. Also giving students time for independent reading. It's so important that they have a solid block of time every day to read independently, to write independently, to talk about books with each other, talk about their writing with each other. And I think sometimes when we're new, it's hard to let that go because you have a curriculum you have to follow.
Right.
So, but if we can just remember that those are the big things that we have to do. You know, we have to let children read, let them write, let them talk about it.
Now, for our folks that have no idea about education or have no idea about what you're talking about in terms of guided reading, can you explain a little bit in simple terms what guided reading means?
So guided reading is working with a small group of students, and they're usually about the same level, or we're working on the same skill. So I might say, okay, well, today we're going to all work on a summary, and so we're reading books that are within our independent level and our instructional level. It just depends. And I'll work with them 15 or 20 minutes, and then they'll send them off to go work on their independent reading. With the younger grades, it might be more where we're working on our blending and our decoding. So it's just going to depend on what grade level, but it's really about small group instruction and giving them that individualized time to work on something specific.
Correct. Now, before we get to the other question, there's a sideway question that I want to ask in regards to the comprehension and fluency in reading, because there are a lot of new softwares and websites that have been trying to replace the old-fashioned way of measuring, fluency and comprehension. At least in Texas, you used to use the Texas Lab for Spanish or the TPRI for English, and you see companies such as iStation trying to replace that. From your perspective, do you feel any difference in the accuracy from one another, or do you prefer the old-fashioned way, or are you more inclined to the new tendencies to measure fluency and comprehension? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I see the advantages to both, but for myself, I'm a big proponent in, assessment is about getting to meet with that child one-on-one and having opportunity to really learn about that child. So if it's through conferring for their writing, or maybe conferring to what they're reading, that's that time for me to individually assess. I understand the need for the technology piece because we have a lot of students in our classroom.
Correct.
I had 30 students when I was teaching, and that's a lot for one person. But I think we always have to remember to find time to do one-on-one and really get to know the child.
And sometimes that TPRI, that can give you that opportunity to learn one-on-one.
Yes, and we used to do the TPRI, and it is a one-to-one assessment. So you get to sit with them and give that assessment.
And spend some time with them. Now, one hot topic out there is millennials, and we know that nowadays reading has a lot of competition. If you think about you have iPhones, you have Netflix, you have younger folks millennials have a lot of distractions. And how do you, from your perspective, how do you motivate millennials to read?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think we have to back it up one step and think about, well, what do I think is reading, right? So I think that younger students, millennials, they are reading. They may not be sitting down with a book, but they are reading Twitter. They are on the internet. They are reading, Facebook. Then also think about those kids that play video games, right?
There's a lot of them.
Right, exactly. So when you're playing those, especially the role-playing games, you have to write about your character. You are talking to other people playing the game. You are reading about your character. So if you think about it, they've put in all the literacies. They're reading, writing, listening, and speaking. it doesn't always look like the traditional way, but I think people are still involved in the literacies.
Just not in a conventional
And not
way.
in a conventional way, but I do think there are ways to increase motivation across the board. One, it's about book of choice. When I get to choose the book that I want to read, I'm going to read that book.
Correct.
Right? It's about the teacher, my teacher, being able to recommend a book to me. Hey, I know that you like this. I just read this book. Try this. So that's just one of those motivation pieces. Giving them time to read. Right?
Super important.
Yeah, I think a lot of our students, they are very busy after school. They play sports, they're in cheer, dance, whatever. And making sure that they have time within the day to read and write is so important. But I do think they're sneaking in those literacies, just not in the traditional format.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Now, what about educators who are looking at us right now, teachers and even administrators who are trying to increase literacy levels at their schools? Because they're seeing, that lack of literacy is hurting them on other subjects such as math, science. What do you recommend them to do, even if they're veteran teachers who are trying to look for ways to increase, literacy levels in their classrooms?
Yeah, that's great. I would think just to give out to overall recommendations for schools and administrators. One, make sure we have a healthy classroom library in every classroom, right? And of course you want your school library to be good and healthy. Make sure that we give time for reading, we give time for writing, listening, and speaking. But no one says it better than... So, Allington and Gabrielle wrote a beautiful article that's published in Educational Leadership, and they lay it out perfectly. It's called Every Child, Every Day. And they basically say there's 6 elements that every child should have every day. They get to read something of choice, something that they choose. They are able to read accurately. They are able to read something they understand. They are able to write about something that is personally meaningful to them. They get to talk with their peers about reading and writing, and then they get the privilege to listen to a fluent adult read aloud. So they say, these are 6 elements for every child. It's one of my favorites.
That you can extrapolate, and teachers and administrators can make sure that happens in every classroom.
Right, and if you break it down, it's about, are you having time for independent reading, independent writing? During writer's workshop, do they have time to write? Do they have time to talk to their peers? Are we doing read-alouds in the classroom so they're able to hear an adult read? And this is every classroom,
right.
Pre-K through 12 where we're doing read-alouds. And then having conversation. I always think about when I read a good book, I got to call somebody because we got to talk about the book. They want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
They want to talk to their friends about it.
Well, and the great thing is that those guidance are applicable at any core subject. So you can definitely, even if you're a science teacher, there are some aspects of that you can definitely apply it to your
Yeah, I think
class.
it goes really well across, all content areas.
Yeah.
That they all get these privileges.
Yeah. Now, before we finish, I want your take because you're really close to this topic, which is librarians in schools, and it has been a hot topic for quite a while. We saw some years ago how school leaders start basically eliminating librarian positions and start replacing them with instructional aides because basically the perception was they just check books. But then recent years start showing that lack of librarians in schools start hurting academic performance, so they start big districts start hiring librarians again. And so what is your take about the modern role of librarians in schools?
The librarian is so important. I mean, they're the place that are the person that the children can go to when they need help finding a book. Sometimes I don't know what I want to read about. And the librarian is very well read. They know lots of books. And I mean, they're that place in the school where, I can go, you can help me find what I want to read. So our striving readers who they don't know what they want to read, the librarian is their touchstone into the world of reading.
Correct.
It's so important,
Yeah. And what about the staff, the role that they play with the staff?
So I love the librarian. They what I have found is the librarian will help you with anything. If you need help with pulling a certain genre, I can say, hey, can you help me find books on this? Or we're about to do a study on whales, and they are able to help me pull books. And then now, from my understanding, is our librarians are also technologically savvy. So they're also in classrooms helping people.
Yeah.
So I think having a school librarian is beyond important. It's the hub of the school. The library should be the hub of the school.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you one more time, Robbie, for being with us
Thank
today.
you. I appreciate it.
Folks, remember that we have this interview and many others on Tony Corrales' YouTube channel. Let's talk about education with Tony Corrales and Sterling Evaluation at Assessment.com. Please help somebody today, and see you next time.
Very nice.